you plan for the big events in your neighborhood and the rest of your week.
Yeah, of course, the Weather Channel always has you covered from coast to coast, and we have a lot going on from coast to coast today.
We do, whether it's the stormy times that have been hovering over the beginning of the week. Just look at that. That's not the type of cloud that you want to see when you're at the beach.
I know, and you think about this is, I mean, our last week of July, a lot of people are wrapping up summer. You may be trying to squeeze in that last minute vacation, and then you're greeted with this.
Yeah, that's Flagler Beach. You want those little, like, puffy cumulus clouds to give you a little break from the sun. You do not want that because that is a sign that you might want to get inside.
Yeah, I gotta say, you got a little bit of clouds on the beach isn't that bad.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't take away too much from the tan.
Yeah.
But if you were traveling over the last few days, I'm sure you had a lot of headaches because, of course, it wasn't just Mother Nature that was causing problems. So we had the technical outages coast to coast internationally. I mean, did you see the pictures even out of Hartsfield here?
Yeah. Just a minute. I was talking to people like through the weekend too. We're still having travel issues like Sunday, some still even into early Monday. Because when you have backups like that, coupled with maybe the weather impacting you as well, it's like the delays just start to stack and domino pretty much.
I know. We had lots of folks in our neighborhood, even family that was stuck in airports around the way. So unfortunately, we may have some more trouble spots today. So let's take you to some of those trouble spots in terms of the weather.
Some of us are above average in terms of rainfall, and others are quite a bit below average like this. If you look up towards, say, Burlington, Vermont, you can see the observed rainfall so far this month is just over 4 inches. So you're actually about 1.5 inches above average. But if we look down towards, say, DC, you guys are in the greens. That's not that much rain. You're actually about 2 to 2.5 inches below average for rainfall so far this month across DC. So you can really see the difference here where we've had higher total rainfalls looking up through upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. It is not as droughty, or we don't have as much drought as when you look farther south where we haven't seen as much rain. Starting to see some extreme drought cropping up over the Shenandoah Valley, so you guys can really use some of this rain that's going to be moving through. You see it lifting north. Got some thunderstorms in there as well this morning. We'll watch as that rain kind of fills in. This is kicking off your Monday morning. Watch how the rain continues to fill in across this region throughout the day Monday into early Tuesday, and then more rounds of rain throughout the day Tuesday as well. So I know if you've just been hoping for some of that rain, you're probably really happy to see this pattern. It does bring along with it, though, that risk for some flash flooding, especially for those areas where we've had above average rainfall. So keep that in mind. Some of those easily flooding places, so some of those places that you know flood, those low water crossings, you could be dealing with that. We've got more rounds of rain as we head through this week. It's going to also put a bit of a lid on the temperatures as well. So I think everyone is probably really happy to kind of see this. And I think there are others who would really love to see a cool down coming from some of this rain, but they're just not get, especially over some of these major travel hubs. You're getting kind of that 1-2 travel delay punch. Look at this. The airport delays and cancellations yesterday, more than 10,000 flights delayed yesterday, more than 2,000 canceled. You can see between Atlanta, Dallas, and Minneapolis, just thousands of flights either delayed or canceled, which leads to a lot of frustration. When you're talking about that many flights, you're talking about thousands and thousands of people on that, and so then you know you're having issues. That airport traffic, or the air traffic right now, you can see a high concentration of flights here across the Northeast and then scattered out across the country, but probably in some ways trying to make up for all the delays that we've seen, because as we know, you get a couple of those delays and it just starts to go like dominoes. In terms of weather-related delays, we're not seeing too many on the map right now, but we could see some later today. Wherever you see these goldish icons here across portions of Texas, Atlanta, once again, Minneapolis, down through Orlando. Really, anywhere where you have those storms, those could delay those flights, because whether you're taking off or coming in, you can't fly through the storms. It does get dangerous when you have, especially maybe even severe thunderstorms for some of these regions. Tomorrow, once again, across the southeast and then up through Minneapolis, that possibility for weather-related airport delays. If you're traveling, say, I-20, I-10 today, you could be slowed down a little bit by some scattered storms because they could have some heavy rain with them. And we know when the atmosphere is primed with moisture like this, could lead to some flash flooding as well. So Colleen, you know, whether you were traveling Friday this weekend, between the technical delays and the weather, it's like, am I ever even going to get there? My vacation was at the airport is what I think a lot of people ended up doing.
And maybe, hopefully, you know a little bit about the airport you're in. I'm getting anxiety just seeing all of those flight icons just all over the place.
All those little gold icons. Could be issues later.
Yeah.
Well, Curiosity got...
Man, it's just phenomenal what they can do. I mean, I've actually experienced in real life when they've saved the cats from the trees.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, these guys are out here and they're saving the animals left and right. It's awesome to see.
The cats need to stop being so curious, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Well, it's hot and it's dry in the west, creating dangerous fires.
For us. Alrighty, it's been called the cone of uncertainty and even the cone of confusion. Now, ironically, better hurricane forecasting is creating new challenges.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why, as meteorologist Jen Carfagno explains, there are big forecast cone changes coming. Yeah, we say it, Colleen, every single year. Don't pay attention to just the code. You have to pay attention to the forecast. And we've both seen it. Storm surge flooding hundreds of miles away from landfall, wind damage well outside where the cone has been. So something to pay attention to every year.
And even the categories, I know so much, even with Beryl, when we were looking at it in the Gulf, it's like you can't get too honed in on even categories because a tropical storm could do a lot of damage. It doesn't have to be a Cat 5.
It can be a big rainmaker and cause huge issues. Now, the good news is, as you look at the Atlantic basin, we're not looking at any possibility of development over the next several days. There are just a couple areas that we're watching in the Eastern Pacific, both with a low chance of development.
Yeah, so that's some great news right now as we head into the rest of July and about to enter August. Of course, we have a lot of hurricane seasons to still go in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
But one thing we're watching is this is when we see the peak of our Saharan dust, or the SAL, Saharan air layer, that comes in, and that can hinder some of the development. Now, Dr. Rick Knapp, former director of the National Hurricane Center, I know he's been talking, it's not all about the dust. There's a lot of other factors too, but it certainly helps. Yeah,
and we're seeing kind of wave and wave of that Saharan air layer or that dust. We're feeling it here. You're seeing it in the sunsets. We're feeling it as we're breathing across some places. And you can see we're seeing kind of wave after wave of that Saharan air layer rolling off Africa. This is kind of the peak timing of it when we typically expect to see it, Colleen. The problem is the timing of maybe a change in the pattern and the dying off of this Saharan air layer are all coming together.
Yeah, so as we have Sal kind of dying off, we also have this La Nina watch in play. And so we are watching these bigger weather pattern changes because this really does a lot with hurricane season. And one thing and why there has been such an increase this year of what we may see during hurricane season is because La Nina usually means weaker upper level winds than when we're in an El Nino phase. So that actually makes it better for development of hurricanes.
Yeah, you can see it here. The kind of prediction on this is as we go through the next several months, we start to see a better chance for La Nina coming right as we're kind of going more into that peak of hurricane season, and that is the type of timing that you do not want to see lining up.
I mean, 93% of the season is still left, so we still have a long ways to go. All right, you can
and up into Canada, those fires, that smoke, all beginning or continuing to impact us. Now, when you look at our map here, you can see a very high concentration of fires kind of together there across southern portions of the Four Corners region, and then especially as you look up toward the Pacific Northwest and through California right now, a total of 232 active wildfires burning. Here's what we're watching out for today. It's that risk of isolated dry thunderstorms for portions of Idaho. We're taking that for eastern portions of Washington and Oregon down into northern California as well. When we're talking about those dry thunderstorms, here's what happens. You get the thunderstorm to form, so you have the dynamics for that. Now, typically when you're talking about a thunderstorm, you have that cloud base low enough that you hope to get that rain reaching the ground so that if any lightning hits the ground within high humidity, that rain will keep that fire out. But when you're talking about very low humidity storms that are able to form, you get that high cloud base, and that means that rain is evaporating before it reaches the ground. So the lightning strikes the ground, and then there's no rain to put out any potential fire caused by that lightning. So that dry thunderstorm, that dry lightning can be very dangerous. And you can see as we put this into motion throughout the afternoon, quite a bit of lightning is possible across portions of Nevada. We're looking at that across Idaho. So where we have that risk for those isolated dry thunderstorms. Tomorrow, we'll keep that around much of the same area as well. You can see that elevated risk for fires across portions of Montana too. And then a wider view shows us our wildfires that we have burning across Canada. You almost kind of have a straight area of those fire symbols here. 433 wildfires burning. The definition for what we're calling a wildfire burning is greater than 100 acres. So you can see just how impactful that is. And of course, you watch that smoke. That smoke doesn't just stay where the fires are. It follows the weather pattern. So you're seeing that smoke filtering down across the the northern Rockies down through the plains as well. So when you have that, that's going to be impacting you in ways our more vulnerable populations like the elderly, like those with respiratory conditions, are feeling these impacts from all of the fires that we're seeing well north. And they're so far away from you. Then we've got the fires burning across the Northwest as well. So you put all of that together and you're getting a really smoky condition. You're getting that dangerous air quality, that low air quality as well. So Colleen, it's like we cannot get away from the smoke from all of these fires burning. And that is part of the far-reaching problems of those wildfires that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and you were talking about that dry lightning and all.
Much of the East Coast is going to be soaked with rain this week, but cities like New Orleans, you see it here, are going to need to be on alert for all that rain causing maybe some flooding. We know that's an issue that sometimes happens in New Orleans. You're starting off your Monday with a little bit of cloud cover hanging around, and then we'll continue with that chance for rain and storms as we head through the next several days. So let's take a look at that. Getting you out the door today, rain for cities like, say, Houston. We've got scattered storms up and down that 95 corridor, maybe some severe storms there for portions of North Carolina and Virginia. The heat continuing for portions of the west, but we also see the rain continuing across the southeast, the lower Mississippi River Valley, stretching up into the northeast on Wednesday. We still see rounds of rain. So we've got days and days of that rain that's continuing. Thursday, hey, look, a lot more of the same. It almost looks, for a second, I didn't think the map was changing because it looks so similar day after day. You've got the heat returning for a city like Kansas City as well. Denver getting up to 98, and that rain sticking around in the forecast. This is why we expect that possibility for some flash flooding before all is said and done this week. Dallas to Atlanta, you've got rain continuing down into Miami for Friday and into the weekend, Colleen. It's almost like rinse and repeat for many of the same regions, many of the same cities as we head through the next 7 days.
No, I feel you, Felicia. If it wasn't for
storms maybe not cooperating, thanks for getting your day going with us as we help you plan for the big events in your neighborhood, or maybe just grocery shopping.
I know, yeah, it may not even be a big event. It may just be like, hey, I'm just trying to get the day going. And
right.
Yeah, you know, trying to find something to do with the kids when it's raining outside. Oh, it's a challenge. All right, of course, the Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast. And we have stuff going on from coast to coast, and I gotta say, we've been showing a lot of cameras from the beach or videos from the beach. It makes me want to go to the beach, but a lot of the beach is also gonna look like this.
Right, exactly. We'll show you this, and that will maybe quail or put a lid on your FOMO a little bit, your beach FOMO.
I mean, where's
Colleen?
our chairs, though?
Well, you know, when it looks like this, you don't want to be out in the chairs.
No.
So maybe every time we are seeing our Adirondack chairs in the other shot, we need to secretly think of this video.
Yes, exactly.
That's what it's going to look like in a lot of places. So that was Flagler Beach over the weekend. Of course, you can be out when it's raining.
Yeah.
You just can't be out when it's storming, and that's what a lot of us are going to have.
Yeah, and it's rainy season here for Florida, and I know we always say the Sunshine State, but not so sunny as we head through this week. Now, another big thing we're going to be talking about, of course, is travel. The Weather Channel, of course, your travel headquarters. But man, along with this wasn't Mother Nature's doing, unfortunately. I mean, this was technical problems over the weekend, and this was all over, even internationally.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to call ourselves your travel headquarters with people dealing with this. We might be like your when it's good travel, we're your travel headquarters. We have nothing to do with that. What were they calling it? Blue screen day? Because man, it just really messed up everyone. Just seeing that many people, you know, the frustration is there.
Yeah. Did you have any family or friends stuck at the airport?
I actually did. I had a friend who was coming in from Miami, and I don't know if it was storms or the delays from technical issues. She had to come in a day later. So.
Yeah, we had family, neighbors, everyone texting saying I'm stuck at the airport. And then, of course, unfortunately today we do have to talk about Mother Nature, unfortunately adding to some of those headaches at the airport. And even on the
where you're gardening or you're enjoying your yards or your plants, and maybe you're watching the garden or the plants or the grass slowly turn yellow and brown, and you don't want that. So we do want some rain. But it is a tale of haves and have-nots, because if you look at the interior Northeast, where you're seeing those oranges and those reds, that's 5 to 8 inches or 8 to 12 inches of rain. But as you look a bit farther south to, say, D.C., so far this month, you're about 2 to 2.5 inches below average across D.C. So some of us have had quite a bit of rain this month, and others not so much. And that's why you're seeing the difference here between where we've seen a lot of rain and we're not dealing with drought conditions, but get down into, say, the Shenandoah Valley, where you've got extreme drought going on. You guys are just hoping for a little bit of rain, right? It's been so hot as well. So that's exacerbating those drought conditions. You'll notice where we have that extreme to severe drought that we're seeing now, getting a little bit of rain over that area, but that is not nearly enough to eradicate that drought to even make a huge difference. You want more rain than that. The good news is here, though, that we're going to have round and round of rain. I guess it's kind of a two-sided coin, because it is good news. You want the rain where you're getting the drought. You don't want the rain where we've had too much rain already. But the other problem that comes along with that is sometimes it takes a bit for the soil to actually let that rain soak in, so it can lead to some flash flooding issues. And then when you just have round and round after rain, no matter what's going on, you could see some flash flooding. And that's what we're seeing for your Tuesday into your Wednesday across Virginia, up through eastern Pennsylvania, up into places like Boston. That 95 corridor is going to stay in rounds of rain as we head through the next several days. So this is really going to be one of those rainy, kind of cloudy weeks that we have continuing, Colleen. Meanwhile, there are other people who are just kind of suffering from the heat who would love some of this rain and cloud cover.
Yeah, well,
some people, I know you maybe were impacted by the technical glitches on Friday, got delays, maybe got cancellations, and you're like, oh, finally. And then you've got a delay or cancellation because of weather. It's like, oh, a double travel whammy when you're dealing with this type of summertime thunderstorms, sometimes severe weather that we get, and some technical difficulties. You can see here yesterday, thousands, over 10,000 flights delayed across the U.S., over 2,000 canceled. ATL and DFW both had more than 1,000 flights delayed yesterday. Colleen was saying this map kind of makes her anxious, and I can see why. You can see the high density of national air traffic right now. Lots of flights in the sky. Maybe a little bit of rough weather that you're contending with this morning, but in general, we're not seeing any severe airport delays. Lots of green bubbles on the map, and that is good news. But with the forecast like we have happening today, we do see that possibility for some airport impacts weather-wise. You can see maybe getting up to the orange level or the medium level of possible airport delays there for DFW, big hub. As we look across Texas, ATL over into RDU, again up into MSP, that possibility for some weather-related delays. That's not what you want to see. And tomorrow as well. So if you've been maybe stuck at the airport for a couple of days, you are so ready to be done with this. You know, I was seeing people post on social media like, oh, I've been stuck here since Friday, and my next flight option is flying out on Monday with 3 stops or 2 stops or something. And it's like, you know, you just don't, there's no happy medium when you've been stuck at the airport that long and you don't see any kind of happy ending in sight. You might have a 10-hour travel day ahead of you.
Gosh, okay, gotta ask, are you a nervous traveler, or are you just kind of like smooth sailing?
No, I'm not a nervous traveler, but I mitigate that because I get there early. I'm never rushing. I come, my phone is charged, I have my snacks. I am purposely not a nervous traveler.
In my older age, I've actually started packing like extra stuff in my carry-on just in case the luggage gets lost or where I get stranded at the airport. I don't know. Just different things that you think about now.
I do that too, especially work travel, because you never know.
Never know.
Okay, now this may creep you out just a bit. It's
just watching them.
Just watching, yeah, Maybe not recently though, because they're probably angry. Well, Jim Cantori is no, and you don't want to be dealing with that. Jim Cantori actually took a trip to Virginia Tech's Department of Aerospace and Ocean Engineering, which studies hurricane force winds to see how much force is in a Cat 5 hurricane. Yeah, Colleen, you know, if anyone knows about standing in those dangerous winds and the most dangerous storms, it's Jim.
Yes.
And even he didn't want to be doing that.
Whoa, oh my gosh, I know. I was about to say, anyone that knows what that's like, it is Jim Cantori.
Yeah.
And that is just a wild perspective, really a perspective that you could not safely do.
No.
Except if you're in a place like that to feel those Cat 5 winds.
Right, exactly. Now, luckily, we're not looking at anything like that on the board right now. It is quiet in the Atlantic Basin, and then we've just got 2 areas to watch in the Eastern Pacific. Low chance of development over the next 7 days. We like to see that, and here's part of the reason.
Yeah, you know, we still have about 93% of hurricane season left, so we haven't even reached the peak that's in September. But right now in July, sometimes we do see a bit of kind of a lull because of the Saharan dust. Now, you may see it in the sunsets, but with tropical development, it suppresses it.
That's right. You can see it here. We've had kind of wave after wave of this tropical dust, the Saharan dust rolling off of Africa. We call it the SAL, the Saharan air layer, and it really just does not work really well with the tropical storms. It inhibits their development. There are a couple different other things that are coming together to inhibit that development, but especially that dust. But Colleen, the trend that we see over the next couple months is concerning.
Yeah, because not only are we getting rid of SAL or Saharan air layer, so this is the peak right now in kind of that June-July period, but we also have this, a La Nina watch that is in effect right now. So we've been transitioning from El Nino to La Nina, and this is why from the beginning of the season, everyone was predicting such a high hurricane season was because La Nina usually means a lot weaker winds. And so with that, you can have better development of hurricanes. And we also have the dust that's kind of settling down. So a lot of things, unfortunately, are coming back in play that could signify more activity in the coming months.
You see that here. This is the forecast for whether it's La Nina, El Nino, or kind of neutral. And you'll notice kind of that worst timing here where we start to see the Saharan air layer go away. We start to see a better chance for La Nina taking place. And what that means, as Colleen just pointed out, is it is more conducive for tropical development.
And there's that 93% left of hurricane season. I don't know. I think everyone kind of forgets. This goes all the way till November 30th. So we still have a long ways to go. And with that peak in September, we're not even there yet. So even though we may have had a slow start right now, unfortunately, ingredients are coming together that it could get a lot more active as we head into the fall.
Yeah, if Beryl was any indication as to what those storms could do, that you want to evacuate to make sure you're staying safe. Of course, your life can never be replaced. Everything else is replaceable. But we have so many active wildfires, whether we're talking about the ones burning across the western portions of the country or the ones up into Canada, which we'll talk about both of those shortly. Total fires burning right now, 233. You can see a high concentration across portions of the Four Corners region up into the northwest. For a fire to be kind of counted there, it has to be greater than 100 acres. We've got that risk for isolated dry thunderstorms today for portions of Idaho, eastern portions of Washington down into Oregon. And what that means is that you're not getting rain reaching the ground, but you're getting lightning possibly reaching the ground out of these. So you got the thunderstorm forming. When you have plenty of humidity, that rain reaches the ground. If that lightning strikes, a lot of times that rain will put it out. You've got that low cloud base. But when you're talking about very low humidity, very dry air in place like we have across this region, the rain ends up evaporating. It doesn't make it to the ground. So then you've got a lightning strike. There's nothing to put out that fire. And then you're dealing with the gusty winds that are going to pick up across this region as well. So it becomes a very dangerous situation. You can see the lightning intensity forecast for today. So we've got that possibility for lightning. That's going to carry over into tomorrow as well. Isolated dry thunderstorms possible. Elevated risk for fires across portions of Montana. And then you look farther north and look at the wildfires that we have burning across Canada. More than 400 there. And you know, the impacts of that don't just stay where the fires are. You can see on in the upper level winds, the smoke emission that we're seeing here over the past 24 hours. That smoke is widespread and it's spreading out across a large region. And that is terrible for those with those respiratory issues, for the more vulnerable populations. But it's bad for pretty much everyone. You don't want to be breathing this in across the northern tier. You can see that smoke emission reaching far south. We're talking down that I-25 corridor, down the Front Range. And we're not anywhere near done with that either. Those fires keep burning, keep emitting that smoke. And of course, the greater weather pattern picks it up and spreads it out. So you could be hundreds and hundreds of miles away from these fires, Colleen, and you are dealing with the respiratory issues from the smoke particulates that are making it all the way to where you are.
Yeah, and then a place that sees burns
really fast. Let's get you caught up on everything you need to know before heading out the door. Now, much of the East Coast is going to be soaked with rain this week, but a city like, say, New Orleans, you're going to need to be on alert for maybe some of that flooding that all of that rain could cause, starting out with cloudy skies there in the Big Easy, feeling like a balmy 89 degrees for you. We've got that chance for rain pretty much on and off throughout the week, whether you're in the southeast, the northeast. It is going to be quite the rainy time. So look at the forecast for today. Now, when I was looking at this the last time, I was like, oh, I don't even know if my maps are changing, because what you'll notice as I click through this is the forecast looks a lot the same on each one of these maps. Here's tomorrow. We've got scattered showers and storms. Say that 5 times fast. Up and down the East Coast, whether it's that I-10 corridor, I-95 as well through the Gulf Coast. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm clicking through and they all kind of look the same. What that should tell you is that we are going to start to see some of those flooding concerns ramping up. You'll also notice that we are finally getting a little bit of a heat relief for places in the Pacific Northwest as well. So that should be something we're grateful for. The rain is going to continue into the weekend across the South. Well, we're helping you stay prepared for summer and your plants and all of that. So probably want a little rain, a little help from Mother Nature. And a lot of us have not gotten much of that. However, where we have gotten the rain, we've seen quite a bit of it. Take a look here. Wherever you see the yellow shading, that's 3 to 5 inches. Upstate New York, across northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, up into Maine. Some of us have seen quite a bit of rain. As you look closer to the coast here, in some places, quite a bit of rain so far this month as well. But for a place like, say, D.C., you'll notice you're in the green there. And we're about 2 to 2.5 inches below average across the city for this month so far. So D.C. is feeling a little bit dry. You can see some of that extreme drought starting to creep up here for portions of the Shenandoah Valley, the larger orange shading there for the severe drought. So a lot of us just hoping for a little rain, and we're going to get it. That's the good news this week. Round and round of rain going to continue. We've got some light showers lifting up through Virginia right now. Some thunderstorms there knocking on the door south of Pittsburgh. That's all going to continue filling in northward as we head throughout the day today. You see that here, kind of a round of rain lifting into New England up through Maine as we head into early Tuesday morning, and then those rounds of rain continuing. Now, is it going to be a complete washout? No, but that 95 corridor is going to have a kind of a rain shower on and off each day pretty much all week. So for tomorrow, we've got that risk of flash flooding up and down the 95 corridor. That is going to come from the rounds of rain that we're seeing, some ponding on the roadways, especially those low-lying flood-prone places. Keep that in mind because that could start to flood. We'll see those rounds of rain continuing into Thursday, early Friday as well. So the flash flooding concerns also continue, Colleen. But I will say concern for flooding, rain over here, completely different concern as you look to the west.
Yeah, and that's the heat, because we have seen some
scattered storms across some of our major hubs. All of those compound to just make it a travel nightmare for lots of us. So you can see yesterday, here are our stats nationally: over 10,000 flights delayed, more than 2,000 canceled. Leading the list here, ATL, DFW, MSP. Man, I feel for anyone that was stuck in any of this, because it's like, you know, when you have that many people kind of all together being frustrated, it's just not great energy. You can see the national air traffic here today. We've got a couple groupings across the Northeast, there across portions of Florida. So we are seeing lots of flights out there. And the good news is we're not seeing any major airport delays right now. Now, I will say could be just a little bit bumpy in some places as you're heading out because of those systems that we have moving through. Right now, not seeing anything other than green bubbles on this map, but that is likely to change as we head through the day. For maybe DFW, once again, last thing you want to hear if you're stuck there. Atlanta, as we have those storms bubbling up down into Orlando as well. So it's not always about what the weather is where you are. It could be where your flight is coming from. So that could be part of the problem. ORD, that possibility for some flight delays with weather-related implications. And it's not just the airways, the skyways that are being impacted with travel. It is also those roadways as well. So that I-20 and that I-10 corridor, once again, dealing with scattered showers and storms. Some of that rain is going to be heavy at times, especially when we're heading into the afternoon. You get those pop-up thunderstorms, plenty of moisture to work with. That could cause some ponding on the roadways. Once again, in Atlanta, you're going to be dealing with those storms, so keep that in mind. Tallahassee, showers and storms in your forecast, going to slow you down a little bit, especially for your afternoon commute. Let's look at Florida, where we've got our typical afternoon storms bubbling up, especially across that 75 corridor. Lots of lightning, some heavy rain, some gusty winds, and that I-4 corridor could get a little bit messy as well. So as you know, Colleen, I spent years driving on I-4, and it's tough to drive across portions of Florida, really any city, without the rain, without anything impacting you. But, you know, throw some rain, throw some storms, throw some gusty winds on a road like I-4, I-75, and it's an extra frustration.
And you're like, oh man, we don't even need that. It's already frustrating without Mother Nature adding to it.
Give yourself some extra time if you're dealing with those afternoon storms, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it's hot and it's dry in the west because we're not dealing with any tropical activity, and I do expect it to ramp up quite a bit. All quiet across the Atlantic basin. You can see 2 areas highlighted there for the East Pack, both of those with a low chance of development in the next 7 days.
Yeah, we see kind of the quiet, unfortunately almost calm before the storm right now across parts of the Atlantic. One thing to mention, though, and you've probably heard folks talking about, is it's the dust.
Yeah.
And that's the Saharan dust, or SAL, the Saharan air layer. And so that can suppress thunderstorm development, and then in turn suppress hurricane development. But there's a lot of other factors that are kind of keeping it quiet right now.
Yeah, you can see we are not done with this dust either. We're going to continue to see kind of plumes of that dust moving off the coast of Africa, kind of traveling across the MDR, the main development region, putting a little bit of a cap on our development. But the waters are so warm that, Colleen, you get the right thing to spark off, and those storms are going to start right back up.
Yeah, and SAL, the Saharan air layer, it's the outbreaks are more frequent during this time frame, and as Felicia mentioned, those are going to be going down. And on top of that, we have this La Nina watch out. So you may have heard a lot about INSO and how we've been switching from this El Nino pattern into La Nina as we head through the end of hurricane season. And that is still playing out. And so what that means is really when we get into this La Nina pattern, we have weaker upper level winds. So hurricanes, unlike tornadoes, they don't want all the winds going at different directions and speeds throughout the atmosphere. They want uniform wind. And unfortunately, that's kind of what La Nina does. That is why a lot of folks are talking about such a busy hurricane season this year.
You can see it here. Yeah, the signal is we're going out of more of a neutral phase in June, July, and August. As we head through July, August, September, October, we start to see a better signal for La Nina, which is bad news in trying to suppress any of that tropical development, especially as we head towards, say, the peak of the season. And if, say, Beryl were any indication as to what the storms can accomplish this season, it's going to be a rough one.
Yeah, and so, of course, we've been talking a lot about categories, and it's not always all about the category of these hurricanes. I know Dr. Rick Knabb, former director of the Hurricane Center, he's always talking about category slow, and a lot of these storms may not be a Cat 5. They could be a tropical storm or a Cat 1, but they're so slow moving, and so they can really be great rainfall producers. And as Felicia mentioned, we are nowhere near done with Atlantic hurricane season. It goes all the way till November 30th. We are only 93%, or we still have 93% left. We're only 7% through the season.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, of course, you can always say weather.
To see homes burning, you hate to see people in danger, those evacuation orders. But of course, if you're ordered to evacuate, you want to do that. All of the worldly possessions, while it really does not feel good to lose them, those can be replaced. You can't replace your life. So follow those evacuation orders. You can see what's happening here. 234 total fires burning in the map that we're showing you across the U.S. Now, to be classified in that, it's greater than 100 acres. So those are kind of the specifications here. And you noticed a lot of those were centered across the Northwest. Today, we have that risk for isolated dry thunderstorms. We'll see those winds picking up as well. We've got low humidity, and that can lead to more fires starting. This is what happens. So you get that thunderstorm going. It's called dry lightning. The thunderstorm forms, and typically when you're thinking about a thunderstorm, if you get some lightning hitting the ground, maybe trying to start a fire, it's coming with rain. So the rain reaches the ground with that low cloud base, and you're fine when you have some humidity. But in this region, we have low humidity, so we're seeing those high-based clouds, high cloud bases that do not allow that rain to actually reach the ground. So when the lightning hits, it can start a fire, and there's no rain there to put it out, and that becomes a dangerous situation. So you can see our lightning intensity map here across portions of Idaho, Nevada, getting into Oregon, Washington, California. All of those areas are at risk for some of that dry lightning, where we especially see that even tomorrow as well, continuing for portions of Idaho, eastern portions of Washington, getting up to Montana with that elevated fire risk. And it's not just across the U.S. We're watching the active wildfires across Canada as well, more than 400 there. And the problem that's coming along with that, of course, the danger, but then also the smoke coming from those fires is far reaching. This is the smoke emission in the past 24 hours. You can see how widespread that smoke from all of those fires that are burning across Canada is. It just keeps spreading out, and you can be hundreds and hundreds of miles away from the actual fire and still impacted by the smoke. This is terrible for those with respiratory issues, but really just for any of us. You don't want to be breathing in air with terrible air quality, and that is the case, and that is going to continue as long as all of these fires are still burning and those winds are spreading those fire conditions. Colleen.
And then as we move a little farther
out the door. Now, much of the East Coast is going to be soaked with rain on and off this week, but cities like New Orleans, you're going to need to be on alert for that possibility for some flash flooding. I'd say if you spend any time in New Orleans, you're probably usually on alert for some flash flooding, especially this time of year with those pop-up storms. You're starting out with some cloud cover, but look at that. Already feels like 95 degrees. It is like a sauna this early in New Orleans. Let's take a look at what you can expect for your national forecast throughout the day. Some of the heat continuing across the west today, but we are seeing that rain for the I-10, I-20 corridor, up and down that 95 corridor as well. Now, as I click through these graphics, you might be like, wait, is it changing? Just watch the day here, because that's just about the only thing that's changing in some of these spots, because a lot of us are going to have this same rainy, stormy forecast all week. Here's Wednesday, once again across the southeast, across the Great Lakes region as well, with that chance for showers and storms by Thursday. Look at this. Denver, 98 degrees. You're heating up out there. Kansas City, 93. Bismarck, 97 for you. And the showers and storms are still ongoing for eastern portions of the country. Southeast and the southeast southeast both Friday and Saturday. You're dealing with those showers and storms, so that will be something to keep an eye on. And then heading into Sunday, up and down the central portions of the U.S., that's where we have the best chance for some of those showers. And Colleen, no surprise here, the showers sticking around for the southeast heading through the weekend.
And then you kind of
maybe you planted some of those flowers. You want a little help from Mother Nature, right? You don't want to be watering so much. And some of us are not getting it. Some of us are, though. This is the observed rainfall for the month so far. And you'll notice a large swath of very high rainfall totals as you look at the interior northeast and some closer to the coast as well. But for a place like, say, D.C., where you're in the greens, we're below average. We're about 2 to 2.5 inches below average for rainfall across D.C. So seen a little bit of drought conditions starting to creep up there. We've got extreme drought showing up for portions of the Shenandoah Valley, severe drought across a huge chunk of Virginia, West Virginia getting in on that as well. So really needing some of that rain for the grass, for the gardens, for the plants, whatever you might have going on out there. So we'll take any light rain that we're getting. If you're here just kind of waiting for it where we're in that extreme drought, you've got some rain lifting north. Now that kind of spurt of rain is not going to do anything for us, but we're going to have rounds and rounds of rain over the next several days. You see this lifting up Tuesday morning, Boston up through Burlington. You're starting off with some showers around. We've got kind of on and off throughout this week that chance for rain. So we've got also that leading to a flash flooding risk. For tomorrow, that risk for flash flooding up and down the 95 corridor, cities like Philly, D.C., back through Roanoke, you could start to see some flash flooding, especially for those kind of low-lying flood-prone places that are in your neighborhood or maybe that you pass driving to work. Wednesday into Thursday, we're continuing with that risk for showers and storms. And so, of course, that is going to continue, that risk for some flash flooding as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, Colleen, while we're watching the rounds and rounds of rain here, we are just waiting for some heat relief out west.
I know, we really need some heat.
A travel headache for so many. When you're talking about a Sunday with more than 10,000 flights delayed, more than 2,000 flights canceled, then you take all of those people, because you figure how many people are on each flight, and all of those people are stuck in the airport for much longer than they thought they would be, or they are their flights are completely canceled. It's just a mess. You can see yesterday Atlanta, DFW, MSP all kind of leading the numbers there in terms of delays or cancellations. You can see the national air traffic map right now. We've got tons of flights in the sky, maybe trying to make up for the mess that it has been Friday through the weekend. Lots of green bubbles on our map in terms of weather related to airport delays currently across the Northeast. That could be changing, though, because we are expecting those storms to fill in as we head through the afternoon. Lots of green bubbles on the airport delay national map currently, which means we're running just fine. But heading into the afternoon, that possibility for weather-related airport delays, especially when you see somewhere like DFW with the orange shading. We're getting up into the medium level for the possibility of those travel delays at the airports. Heading into tomorrow, again, major hubs like ORD and Atlanta down into central Florida. That possibility for those delays, of course, those can kind of domino, and it's not always how the weather is where you are. It could be where your flight is coming from or where you're going that impact your delay or cancellation. On the roadways, we're going to have those issues too. I-10, I-20, both of you dealing with that heavy rain at times, the ponding on the roadways, that type of rain that, the windshield wipers are going as fast as they can, and they're still not doing any good for you. Today, we're stretching that over into that I-75 corridor as well. Some severe storms possible as you look up toward the Carolinas, toward Virginia. So you don't want to be dealing with that. It's that type of rain for some of us today, and we know these summer storms, Colleen, that it's like the windshield wipers are going as fast as they can go. You're going 5 miles an hour, and it's still not enough to feel safe driving because the rain is just coming down so heavy.
I was just thinking, we kind of were talking about the two things that I feel like make people the maddest.
Yeah.
It's like the travel delays and then the heat. I feel like it's always like, I'm sorry for what I said when it was 109 outside.
Right, exactly.
And then it's like, I'm sorry for what I said when I was stuck in the airport for 9 hours.
Right.
I feel like we're talking about two things that really take the temperature up in different ways.
Oh, and a lot of people are just dealing with that, especially it's like vacation time of year. People trying to get just to their vacation and they've been stuck at the airport. So really feel for everybody that's been dealing with that.
So, hey, how about we show you this? Because
maybe that will make you feel better. If you're stuck in the airport, at least you're stuck in the airport and not in a mega den of rattlesnakes.
There you go, Felicia. Always finding the silver lining.
There's always a silver lining, right? Although the way people are feeling right now, you might feel like you're in a mega den of rattlesnakes.
Yeah, or you know what? You have so much extra time, you're like, I think I will tune into that live stream.
Yeah, Colleen, if anyone knows about standing in those dangerous winds and the most dangerous storms, it's Jim.
Yes.
And even he didn't want to be doing that.
Whoa, oh my gosh, I know. I was about to say, anyone that knows what that's that's like. It is Jim Cantori.
Yeah.
And that is just a wild perspective, really a perspective that you could not safely do.
No.
Except if you're in a place like that to feel those Cat 5 winds.
Right, exactly. Now, luckily, we're not looking at anything like that on the board right now. It is quiet in the Atlantic Basin, and then we've just got 2 areas to watch in the Eastern Pacific. Low chance of development over the next 7 days. We like to see that, and here's part of the reason.
Yeah, you know, we still have about 93% of hurricane season left, so we haven't even reached the peak that's in September. But right now in July, sometimes we do see a bit of kind of a lull because of the Saharan dust. Now, you may see it in the sunsets, but with tropical development, it suppresses it.
That's right. You can see it here. We've had kind of wave after wave of this tropical dust, the Saharan dust rolling off of Africa. We call it the SAL, the Saharan air layer, and it really just does not work really well with the tropical storms. It inhibits their development. There are a couple different other things that are coming together to inhibit that development, but especially that dust. But Colleen, the trend that we see over the next couple months is concerning.
Yeah, because not only are we getting rid of SAL, or Saharan air layer, so this is the peak right now in kind of that June-July period, but we also have a La Nina watch that is in effect right now. So we've been transitioning from El Nino to La Nina, and this is why from the beginning of the season, everyone was predicting such a high hurricane season, was because La Nina usually means a lot weaker winds. And so with that, you can have better development of hurricanes. And we also have the dust that's kind of settling down. So a lot of things, unfortunately, are coming back in play that could signify more activity in the coming months.
You see that here. This is the forecast for whether it's La Nina, El Nino, or kind of neutral. And you'll notice kind of that worst timing here where we start to see the Saharan air layer go away. We start to see a better chance for La Nina taking place. And what that means, as Colleen just pointed out, is it is more conducive for tropical development.
And there's that 93% left of hurricane season. I don't know. I think everyone kind of forgets. This goes all the way till November 30th. So we still have a long ways to go. And with that peak in September, we're not even there yet. So even though we may have had a slow start right now, unfortunately, ingredients are coming together that it could get a lot more active as we head into the fall. Yeah,
if Beryl was any indication as to what those storms are turning, you hate to see people in danger, those evacuation orders. But of course, if you're ordered to evacuate, you want to do that. All of the worldly possessions, while it really does not feel good to lose them, those can be replaced. You can't replace your life. So follow those evacuation orders. You can see what's happening here. 234 total fires burning in the map that we're showing you across the U.S. Now, to be classified in that, it's greater than 100 acres. So those are kind of the specifications here. And you noticed a lot of those were centered across the Northwest. Today, we have that risk for isolated dry thunderstorms. We'll see those winds picking up as well. We've got low humidity, and that can lead to more fires starting. This is what happens. So you get that thunderstorm going. It's called dry lightning. The thunderstorm forms, and typically when you're thinking about a thunderstorm, if you get some lightning hitting the ground, maybe trying to start a fire, it's coming with rain. So the rain reaches the ground with that low cloud base, and you're fine when you have some humidity. But in this region, we have low humidity, so we're seeing those high-based clouds, high cloud bases that do not allow that rain to actually reach the ground. So when the lightning hits, it can start a fire, and there's no rain there to put it out, and that becomes a dangerous situation. So you can see our lightning intensity map here across portions of Idaho, Nevada, getting into Oregon, Washington, California. All of those areas are at risk for some of that dry lightning, where we especially see that even tomorrow as well, continuing for portions of Idaho, eastern portions of Washington, getting up to Montana with that elevated fire risk. And it's not just across the U.S. We're watching the active wildfires across Canada as well, more than 400 there. And the problem that's coming along with that, of course, the danger, but then also the smoke coming from those fires is far reaching. This is the smoke emission in the past 24 hours. You can see how widespread that smoke from all of those fires that are burning across Canada is. It just keeps spreading out, and you can be hundreds and hundreds of miles away from the actual fire and still impacted by the smoke. This is terrible for those with respiratory issues, but really just for any of us. You don't want to be breathing in air with terrible air quality, and that is the case, and that is going to continue as long as all of these fires are still burning and those winds are spreading those fire conditions. Colleen.
And then as we move a little farther,
some blue skies showing up in this shot here, which might seem great, but actually isn't fantastic considering it already feels like 96 degrees with all that heat and humidity that you have in the Big Easy right now. You're going to have that chance for rain continuing as well. So as we know, if you spent any time in New Orleans, get too much rain in a short period of time and you're seeing some of that flash flooding popping up. We've got days and days of rain ahead. Now I'm going to advance these graphics, but they're going to look a lot the same because we've got rain and showers and storms over many of the same areas throughout this entire week. You can see the storms sticking around from Atlanta down through Orlando, D.C., that 95 corridor. Showers as we head through Tuesday and Wednesday for cities like Chicago and Boston. We've got heat sticking around for places like Denver. Look at this, Bismarck, 100 degrees. Bismarck, not only are you dealing with this heat, but you're also dealing with that wildfire smoke. It is just miserable across the northern tier between the smoke and the heat that you have right now. And then we're continuing with the rain across the south. I-20, I-10 going to stay wet. 94 in Orlando is your forecast heading into the weekend. So it is going to be hot and steamy and stormy still. Colleen.
And of course,